Throughout his career, Elvis Presley respected numerous other rock singers in the music industry. However, few were as well known as Roy Orbison, the distinctive-looking rockabilly singer. Roy Orbison at the BBC, a feature on BBC Two, looked back at the star's biggest and best performances over the years. Roy, also known as the Big O, had some great successes throughout his career, but he failed spectacularly while attempting to sell one of his compositions to Elvis Presley. Want to know what song it was? Then join us in this video to find out, as well as learn more about who Roy Orbison is. Orbison wrote the song Only the Lonely in 1960 and began looking for someone to buy it from him. Of course, Elvis was his first point of call, as he was quickly becoming one of the world's biggest acts. He apparently even tried to deliver it personally by showing up unannounced to the home of the king of rock and roll, but the star's doorman refused to let him in. After arranging to meet Elvis, he officially offered the song to him. Unfortunately for him, Elvis was uninterested. Only the Lonely was turned down by Elvis, leaving Orbison distraught. He had no choice but to continue pitching the music elsewhere. He then offered it to the Everly Brothers, who declined as well. After the two largest music acts in America rejected Roy's song, he opted to self-release it. On May 9, 1960, Roy released his version of Only the Lonely. In just a few months, on October 20, 1960, the song reached #1 in the United Kingdom. By the end of the year, Only the Lonely had sold over 500,000 copies in the United States. Although Elvis declined Roy's song, the king of rock and roll later stated how much he loved Roy's vocals. Elvis and Roy met for the first time in well over a decade, just before going on stage during one of his Las Vegas residency gigs. The old friends were thrilled to see each other again. That same night, when performing in front of a sold-out crowd, he disclosed that Roy was also in the audience. He went on to tell them Roy was the greatest singer in the world. Elvis was also incredibly respectful of the singer. Throughout his decades-long career, he performed live covers of various artists' songs, including the Beatles, Frank Sinatra, and many others. Elvis, on the other hand, refused to cover any of Orbison's songs. He apparently felt he could not sing any of Roy's songs any better than the original recordings. Roy had the most perfect voice, he later said. In Odessa, Texas, Roy Orbison saw Elvis for the first time. His energy was fantastic. His instinct was just phenomenal. I had no idea what to make of it. There was just no reference point in the culture to compare it. Roy Orbison had an obvious historical impact on rock and roll, providing haunting classics and inspiring artists such as Bruce Springsteen and Bob Dylan. But if it hadn't been for a high school concert in 1955, Orbison's celebrity career would never have happened. When historians and musicologists examine the history of rock and roll, it is impossible to ignore Roy Orbison's influence. Orbison is famous for haunting classics like Pretty Woman, Only the Lonely, Blue Bayou, and Crying. Orbison is regarded as a talisman by many musicians, including Bob Dylan, Bruce Springsteen, and Tom Petty. On June 1, 1956, Elvis paid a surprise visit to the Overton Park Shell in Memphis, where old pals Johnny Cash and Carl Perkins were performing, as well as new Sun talents Roy Orbison and Warren Smith. Orbison's musical stylings influenced U2's pulsating undertones, the falsetto of Led Zeppelin's Robert Plant and the Bee Gees' Barry, as well as Queen's melodrama. However, if it hadn't been for a 1955 show at Midland High School, Orbison's legendary career might never have happened. Elvis Presley, together with Johnny Cash, Wanda Jackson, Floyd Kramer, Porter Wagoner, Bobby Lord, Jimmy C. Newman, and Jimmy Day, were the featured performers on the October 12 package show. Several attendees recalled Billy Walker appearing as well, but his name does not appear on any surviving newspaper ads, contracts, or promotional materials. Jane Cairns, a Midland High student at the time who subsequently became principal, said it's incredible to think back on how accommodating the school administration was for such activities. In fact, when a big-known artist was due to perform in the evening, lessons were frequently canceled, so that students could attend a free preview in the school auditorium. It was incredible to witness how the girls responded to Elvis, Karens added. These were friends of mine, and they basically went berserk when he arrived on stage. Presley scored hits with Blue Moon of Kentucky, I Forgot to Remember to Forget, and Mystery Train at the time. Cash had charted with Hey Porter and Cry, 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 and just released Folsom Prison Blues. Elvis had been on tour with some performers from the Louisiana Hayride, and then broke off to join the group that went to Midland. Stanley Oberst, author of Elvis in Texas, recalled. Oberst has amassed thousands of images, records, interviews, and ledgers from Presley's concerts around Texas. For a concert like this one, the smaller artists were only playing around 3 numbers. Cash would have been next to last, and then Elvis. You didn't want to go on after Elvis, because everybody would simply get up and leave to get a peek at him when he left the auditorium, he explained. Orbison was among those who wanted to meet Presley. He had previously seen Elvis perform in Midland and Odessa, as well as in Lubbock and Dallas. His intention was to speak with Presley and learn how he went from local performer to the Hillbilly Cat in less than a year. Orbison had his chance the day of the Midland High event, following the free preview in the shape of Johnny Cash. Orbison was born on April 23, 1936, in Vernon, Texas, and relocated to Wink, Texas, with his family when his father accepted a job in the oil sector. Orbison was drawn to music and formed the Wink Westerners, a country band. In addition to performing at neighborhood dances, Orbison and the Westerners were frequently featured during live music shows on television stations KMID and KOSA, as well as Kermit's Curb Radio. He formed the Teen Kings, who performed at neighborhood dances and talent shows on a regular basis. Orbison began seeking all the media attention he could get, wanting more from his profession than the chance to compete for horses or supper for 4 for a band of 5. We all had day jobs, as did the rest of the Teen Kings, but Roy's parents really helped him out, so he got to go about all week, advertising the band and finding concerts and dances, stated Ronnie Slaughter of Ronnie and the Regals, another mid-1950s rockabilly band. One of the appearances he arranged was on KMID on a Wednesday afternoon. Johnny Cash, a rising talent, was also scheduled to appear on the show. Cecil Hollifield Jr., an MHS student whose father owned the record shop stores in Midland and Odessa, said his father not only marketed the Presley and Cash event, but also arranged for numerous celebrities to appear on Midland Odessa television and radio. Furthermore, Pop Hollifield Sr. advised Orbison on his potential profession. There is only circumstantial evidence, but it is likely that Hollifield asked Cash to perform on KMID, since he knew Orbison would be there as well. Whether the meeting was planned or unplanned, the outcome was the same. Despite Orbison's thick glasses and fairly bookish demeanor, Cash was blown away by his vocal and guitar prowess. He invited Orbison to the Midland High event, promising him the chance to finally meet Elvis. Cash reportedly wanted Presley's thoughts on Orbison's potential as a recording artist on Sam Phillips' Sun label. By this time, nobody was getting backstage unless they were supported by someone like Cash. There were just too many girls wanting a piece of Elvis, and there were also a lot of jealous boyfriends, who they didn't want back there, Oberst explained. Presley and Cash both believed that the Wink native had the potential to be a musical success after speaking with Orbison. Oberst noted that perhaps there wasn't a lot of talking, because all 3 men were shy and soft-spoken. According to Hollifield Jr., Cash and Presley most likely explained to Orbison that establishing a musical mark came at a high cost of travel and uncertain earnings. They might only make $30 a night after paying for their meal, accommodation, and expenditures, Holifield Jr. explained. Ronnie Slaughter of Ronnie and the Regals stated that Cash and Presley's advice to Orbison couldn't have come at a better time. The other guys in the Teen Kings were quite irritated, because Roy would tell the person where they did a dance to give him the money, and then he'd pay the band, Slaughter explained. He felt he deserved more, because he put things up. They thought the money needed to be split fairly. Then, after meeting Cash and Presley, Roy wanted to go off to Memphis to Sun Records, but those guys all had day jobs. They were about ready to fire him and get another singer, Slaughter recalled. Even Johnny Cash and Elvis Presley couldn't get Orbison a deal without the assistance of Pop Holifield. According to Rick Coster's book, Texas Music, when Orbison called, Sam Phillips made it clear that no one, not even Johnny Cash, was going to influence who got, and didn't get, an audition on his record label. Ober stated that after what had occurred to the careers of Elvis and Cash, artists were going to Sam Phillips in droves. Harold Jenkins, who later changed his name to Conway Twitty, was rejected by Sam Phillips. Pop Holifield, on the other hand, was a regular contributor to Billboard magazine. He volunteered to contact Phillips on Orbison's behalf, promising the Sun Records president that he would never regret auditioning Orbison. Adding Holifield's support to Presley and Cash's was enough to persuade Phillips. By May of 1956, Orbison had his first hits on the Sun label, the back-to-back singles Ooby Dooby and Go Go Go. Orbison also promptly signed a publishing deal with Abe Cuff Rose in Nashville, believing that he would have a greater chance as a songwriter than as a singer. It's quite an amazing compliment to have Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, call you the greatest singer in the world. What do you think? Do you agree with him? Let us know in the comments below.